Može. Hi, welcome. My name is Relja from Novi Sad, Serbia. This is BikeGremlin YouTube channel, and in this video I will do something completely different, as the Monty Python say. I will try to do two things at the same time and probably make a lot of mistakes. And the idea is to show some working procedure and also to make a sort of a announcement what you can expect in the future, so that you don't get as a sort of a heads up. It's I think it's mostly positive and no major changes. That's the whole idea of the announcement, that there won't be many major changes, but I want to share that nonetheless. So what we have here is a bicycle, of course, and my goal is to play with this housing and cables. I need to make some housing shorter like this and make some housing longer. Now for shortening housing I can remove the cable and solder the end, and then cut the housing to a shorter length, and then reinstall the cable and put the housing back and finish the ends. But since this is not very new, I don't mind cutting it and replacing it all together, because it's practically almost the same amount of work when I'm doing it for replacement, but I might save myself some time in the future. So and regarding the announcement, it's important to note these two things. I bought some tools with my own money and I'm using them, and in the following weeks or months, with a bit of luck, I will be making some tool review videos, a series of tool review videos, and they are not sponsored by any company. And again, I am not turning BikeGremlin into a tool review channel. I don't plan to do that, but I plan to share some information and experience that I've had with the tools that I'm using, hoping that it will help other people who are like me, so people who are looking to buy tools for their work. I plan to share all the information. I don't enjoy making tool reviews or such things, because manufacturers often change things, and so when I make an article or a video, it becomes relatively quickly it becomes useless, because that model is no longer available or similar. And so I prefer to show working procedures and do things that are more I think evergreen is the right term. So that's what I prefer to do. But still, I know that many people, many viewers and readers of my website appreciate my reviews and ask for information, tips, advice, and so I think it's a good thing to do that, and I think it will help people. So I will go out of my way to share that information, and that's why I will be making a series of videos. But when I'm doing those reviews, you should know, you should expect that those videos are what I would say to myself in a few years' time if I forget all the information, or what I will say to my friends when they ask me for advice and feedback about my experience with a certain tool. So nothing that I say. I do try to be respectful and polite. Even when I'm criticizing things, I generally try to respect that someone still put some work to make it and market it and everything, and so I should not be too insensitive, but I try to be objective and to note all the pros and cons of every tool and everything that I make reviews of. And so my videos are not intended to be very entertaining. That's not something that you should expect from my videos, and my workshop is very narrow, so this is very difficult for my friend Gox to record, because he has to do a lot of back and forth and so on, and this thing makes noise. As I was saying, the videos will not be very entertaining, but I hope they will be informative, and that the idea of those videos is to let you rely on them when you're making a buying decision, so that you can make an educated buying decision and not be swayed by marketing. So that's what I think makes sense to do, and that's what I will try to do. Now let's see. Like Jokic. Okay, so we'll need a cable. I will be talking about some power tools, and I will also be talking about some hand tools, but mostly I plan to go over the set of power tools that I've been using for some time over the recent years, and share my experience about what's good and what's not. To change the housing and cables while I'm at it, but the main goal is to make them be of optimal length, and this is not really necessary. I'm putting some anti-seize paste on this to make sure that it turns smoothly, it doesn't get stuck or anything, but generally you don't really need to do that. Here you can get away with just smearing some grease or even nothing. This is aluminum on aluminum, so there will not be much galvanic corrosion, if any, but I sleep better when I do things this way. So to lubricate this is how I'm doing it. This is what served me well over the past decades, and I am not claiming that this is how you should do it. Internet can be very educational and very, how do I say, critical. So I've learned to be very cautious. If even when I'm showing something to my son, I try to not deal with absolute things, and to say that the limits of my knowledge and experience clearly, so that everyone can use their own head to do what's best for them and what they think is best. And the best I can do is show what I do the best that I know. If I learn something new, I then change my procedures. So here I've unscrewed this lock nut all the way out to reach this, so that I can screw this all the way in, and that's the position to start. And everything that I say in this video in terms of this is how it's done, this is the starting position, and so on and so forth, should be taken as this is what's worked for me so far very well, and what I think is good to do. So take it like that. I'm putting some anti-seize here on the outer side of this housing end. Again, not really necessary. Now for this is where the cable will go through. I want to first check. Some of these are such that you can insert the end of the housing. Some are too narrow, so they serve double purpose of being a housing end and staying here. So in this case, nothing to add here. Now I will spray something through the opening to make sure this is clean. I want it to start coming out here, and ideally you can use some compressed air too, and in this case I will not be making the extra hassle, and I think it will be good enough. Okay, so here we are. That's one end. Now I can clean and lubricate brake pivots while I'm doing it. Check also the brake pads and everything, but for now it looks pretty good. And I don't plan to disassemble it all now. For cleaning, I will just do a little bit of oil here and a little bit of oil at the parts where it pivots. Just there is a way to completely remove this and clean it and put some grease on the pins where the brake arms are mounted, but in this case I won't be doing that. And when I do service like this, it's usually okay and you can keep riding, and these brakes usually work fine when I do just that. So I try not to do things that are not really necessary. And now let's see if I've cut the whole housing too long. I think this is okay. I don't want to cut it any shorter, but to test it I would simulate having it shorter so I could see what it's like and if it's acceptable. And there is still some room, so maybe I could remove a few more centimeters, but I don't want to push it too far. But I will remove a few more centimeters. So it was too long, and the whole idea of this operation is to make it be of optimal length, so that's what we will try to do here. Let's see, which end do I like less? This one. I'll cut a few centimeters from this end and call it a day. Okay, so the end is a bit frayed. I will try to cut it off like this. Okay, and now it's not looking, still not looking ideal. Let's try to, okay, now it's looking better. Now I can take it to the grinding wheel to just make sure that it's nice and flat. Okay, now the second go, this should be optimal length. And there was a way to better test this before I made the first cut, but to be super certain, it's easier, it's safer to not cut it too much, to leave a little bit of extra and just to confirm. Okay, now this is looking okay, but if I cut just a few more centimeters, it will start suddenly going pretty directly downwards, and then if further changes in bar height or angle could get it in a situation like this, and that's what I want to avoid. This will not be too messy for swinging around, and I will be able to get it with some other stuff, maybe tie it with a zip tie so that it doesn't get out sideways. So that's the plan for now, at least. Okay, now I need to unscrew this and replace this is generally not really needed, and when you have mud guards, it serves to protect this part that moves in and out when you're braking from getting gummed up and moving the dirt inside. But in practice, very often it just prevents the water from coming out. So it's not really as effective, but in this case with the mud guard, I think it won't cause much problem, so I will leave it there just to say thorough. And let's get a few of these just in case. So I will try to unscrew this bolt and remove the cable while not blocking the camera. So this is a very nice thing by Viha. A viewer recommended this and I bought it, and it holds bits without any place, so very, very good. I think I have a video showing it, if memory serves me. So now we have the pads are okay, they are not worn, and we need to put the cable in and adjust it. So how I do it is to get it snug with the hand, and of course things go very clumsy when the camera is on, and mistakes always happen and things get complicated, but this is the general idea. So I'm holding it snug. There are tools to serve instead of one hand, but in this case I will do it. So just release it slightly, holding it snug, and just release it slightly, and then I can try to tighten it. Remember, I have all the adjustment here. I have a lot of room to loosen this barrel and get this cable tighter as the pads wear. So this is the sort of a, I will probably not need this tight. So I want to confirm that I can use the quick release for the brake. If I cannot do it, I need to loosen cable a bit more. So I will try to now see if I can get this out. Yes, I can. Okay, that's probably good enough for V-brakes with flat bars. For some V-brakes with drop bars, you sometimes want the cable to be with a bit more slack so that you have more movement, especially if you're braking from the hoods. There's an article on my website explaining what each of those drop bar hand position is, the hoods and everything else, but that's the basic principle. And so now I'm checking to see if there is room, if I need to retighten the brake. I'm checking to see where it catches, and I need to do some fine adjustment before I call it done. But what I will not be doing is not further tightening this cable. So another nice thing that I did, let's do it. I am the most absent-minded person in the known universe, so I write things down. And here, cable pinch bolt for brakes, 6 Newton meters. There is a page on my website, the tightening torque for components on bicycles, and so that's again what's worked well for me. When you look at recommendations on some other authoritative websites and manufacturers, you may see different things, but this is what works for me, and so we will go for 6 Newton meters here. The same goes for the reviews that I'm planning to make. I will be putting all the important information, technical specs and similar, in video description. But on the video itself, I will not be doing much entertaining stuff and talking about fancy specification. I will just show the important things, how things are. I'm double checking with my hand. I like to think that I can feel this when it's tight enough, and just want to make sure that it really is tight enough in case the tool, for whatever reason, decides to not give me the correct result. It's like a double check. It's a decent quality tool. This is made by Park Tool. This is model ATD/1.2. It's a neat little torque wrench that I use most often of all the torque wrenches that I have. And so there's no more honest recommendation than that. It works from 4 to 6 Newton meters in half Newton meter increments. So pretty handy. Need to get another screwdriver. And that's a decent thing, but I also still prefer to check with my hand, just like some sort of common sense double check, especially when it comes to brakes, because I don't want to say I or my friend has crashed on the first test ride because I blindly trusted a tool. So it's a good to at least make sure that it's not super loose or some huge mistake in tightening torque. So that's what I do. I would also it would also be fair to say that when I'm working on my own bike especially, I almost never use torque wrenches. I think that I have a good feel in my hands and that it's for me not needed. And I know that some people will now want to burn me at the stake, but I would be lying if I said otherwise. That's how it is. So we've done first one brake, and now I want to do the shifting cable in case anything unexpected happens or we run out of camera power or my friend falls asleep. Anyway, so here I've already cut the cable and I want to remove this, and I will be needing to use some longer housing than this. I have these two from some previous projects that were left over, so this is the same length. This won't do for this one. I need something longer, at least a few centimeters longer. And if you watch what I did here, the housing from this side goes around, and then from this side it goes around the other, and it ends up in not having more degrees of turn as far as I can tell, and it's somehow more smooth and logical, and so the cables intersect with each other underneath the bicycle, and it all works. Shifting works like a charm, except when I make it too tight so that the handle itself is pulling on the cable. But that aside, it's a good idea. I wrote an article about housing routing and about housing standards. I have that article and also how to route them. And I used some experiments done by a US engineer, and I will probably butcher his name, Mark Borlier. My apologies to the gentleman. And I will also, in that article about housing routing, there's a link to his article and his experiment, and I put some of his findings, and they are all, how do I say, aligned with my experience and with common sense and with all the calculations you could get. And basically the, let's say, surprising thing about that is that it's better to have tight bands but to have less degrees of total change in direction. It's better explained in that article, to not take too much time on this video. Apparently I'm not capable of talking in foreign language and working at the same time, but that's the basic idea is that it's better to have tight turns, and that's not something that you commonly hear when people, even experienced mechanics, talk about cable routing, and that is why knowing some theory and experimenting is generally something that I highly value and appreciate, that kind of work, and I've tried to share that information so that it can help as many people as possible. Now let's see. I've cut this a little bit longer than I was expecting to need, because that's the simplest way for me to do at least this first test, and then for future years of cable and housing swapping I will be able to rely on that. So what I want to do is to make sure that I can turn the bars all the way here, so more than 90 degrees to one side, and to make sure that the housing is long enough. That's what I'm going for here. So if I make this all the way here, this is the absurdly huge amount of bar turn. Okay, so that should be long enough, that kind of section. Apparently it doesn't look too bad from here, but that does not align with the experience from this one. Let's double check. No, this was too short. Okay, this cable does not pass this test. It's lacking here, and I need to put it very tightly. So just wanted to make sure that I don't repeat the same mistake twice, because here we have a surprisingly high handlebars, and it's not really a standard, very common setup, and so it's I could say that this is something new, so I need to double check and to make sure that it's all good. So something like this looks okay. Let's put it back. Okay, not too long, not too short. I think this will be nice, and we'll work with that. Now where did I leave this? Okay, here. So cutting it like this, and this goes into the bin. Now let's see, again another test. Okay, looking good, and the same thing will apply on the opposite side. This is now getting in the way. Oh, okay, collision. So I will cut two like of this length. Let's see if this that I already have is long enough. It's not. Okay, leave this somewhere aside so that I hopefully don't mix them up. And now let's cut another. You can use a tape measure, and that's what people generally do, but why not use an existing housing to make another cut? I'm keeping it tight, making sure that that's what I'm measuring, and now let's make a cut. So did I get it close enough? I think I did. Okay, we got housing. Now I can go and run them on the tool, on the stone, just to make sure that nothing of steel is sticking out, and then I can this is a wonderful tool made by Jaguar, and I really love this. It's good for cutting cables as well as housing, but this one has served me for a huge amount of years, and I'm trying to save it because I'm not sure if I would be able to easily sharpen this. Maybe yes, maybe not, but for now it's still sharp, and I try to use these for cutting just the cables. They are very good for cutting cables, and they will probably for that use last longer than I will last. Okay, so we have this ready. Now we need a shifter cable, and here let's try to remove the old cable. These levers are mixed brake and housing and the shifter levers, and I will probably need to unscrew these two bolts to open this and then try to remove the cable. First I need to make sure that it's loose all the way. This is for loosening and this is for tightening. Okay, so loosening it all the way, keeping it a bit tight here, and now I will open it and try to see, need to get a screwdriver. If you watch a YouTube channel called Neutral Support, this is the logo on the refrigerator. I'm not sure if it can be caught on the camera. It's a very good channel run by Danielle, who is an experienced bicycle mechanic from the wrong side of the Atlantic, from the United States, and she made a video comparing different kinds of housing cutters, and these one were not the top ranked, but they are my favorite. So different people have different preferences and criteria, and I recommend that channel for it's more aimed towards the mechanics, but I think that the way she explains things and shows is very good for novices too, even if the topics are not all intended for novices directly. So I need to remove this thing here now. This is the tricky part. I don't want to make anything else go flying around the workshop. So hopefully we'll get it out. So if I move it a bit over here with a few clicks, let's see if I will get some more room to work. Okay, there it is. Almost good. Okay, now I want to release this all the way. Good. Now I can pull it out, Again, Shimano, in my opinion, based on my experience and theoretical knowledge and education and everything, Shimano shifter cables are a no-brainer, as they say. It's hard to beat. And we have this from a video we recorded relatively recently, and so we will use this one that's fresh, just open. Okay, let's get it on. I need to insert it, pull in. Okay, got it in. Now I will do a little trick and put some anti-seize on the end. Hopefully it will let me pull it out later on more easily and not make it stick. Okay, now I need to loosen this. Okay, so this is it. I will not be closing it up yet. I want to first do this, so we'll put some housing ends here and here. Making sure they are all the way there. Okay, now let's put this in the one groove, and now I can get this inside. Sometimes when I'm working with the cable it can get out of the groove there, so I'm not closing it up until I got it at least this way through. Then it has its own weight, that's enough. You don't even need for much tension to keep it in place, but this first part is okay. So that's looking good. I can close it up now to not lose anything, not forget, and similar. But when I'm working on my own, just a moment, sorry. Okay, so I put this back into place and I'm holding it with my finger now just to check what it's looking like. Okay, it's looking good. Didn't do too many clicks to make sure it's not loose, doesn't come out of that groove, and now I can tighten it. Just wanted to make sure that the gear indicator is working properly, and it is, so we can close this up. I also have an article and a video about screwdrivers that work well with Shimano and other Japanese plus or cross headed screws. So this is made by Vessel. I think it's a Japanese company, and it works very well, and I love the design. So in Vera or those Vessel are very good screwdrivers. Now we have this cable here, and we need to get it all the way to the rear, so there's a place underneath to route it. And before I do that, I will use a little bit more of this spray, and this is some very fine lubricating oil, nothing fancy, nothing special, but there, I hope you could catch it in the camera without, that's what I was doing, spraying it through there to just try to get some thin lube that won't attract too much dirt, and also to spray out any existing dirt. So that's what should work now. Okay, so it's through here, and now we need to take care of this part. Official Shimano instructions in my native. So when we measure distance from here to here, it will tell me what length I need to use for this section for the optimal performance. So why not do that? 112, 113. So that's in our, based on this, in the 110 situation. So we need 32 centimeters or 320 millimeters for the housing. Okay. Let's see about this. This came with the bicycle and it looks pretty spot on. Let's double check its length. So just under 32 centimeters, 31. Maybe if I get it a bit unwound, it would be 32. So that Shimano table is pretty good. And these shifter housing ends are for, I think, wider, for the 5 millimeter shifter cables, and the ones that I have are 4 millimeters on the outside, so I will be using something like this, and these will not work with what I have, and they are probably not strong enough for brake housing, so I will most probably not risk it and throw them away and maybe make someone on the internet very angry right now. We will know in the comments. Now let's see, 32. That's like me on a good day. 32 centimeters. Okay. So again, we go over there, do a bit of noise. I usually work in a different layout when I'm not recording a video, so this is looking probably highly impractical, the amount of miles that I make while I'm working, but that's not the usual layout and workflow. I had to make room to make it possible for camera to see everything and for my friend to move. So we are working with what we have now. This is for tuning the derailleur. I have videos explaining that, so we'll just put a link to that video in this video description. If I forget, remind me with a comment. So this is unscrewing it, thus effectively making the housing longer, thus effectively making the cable shorter, so you are tightening it. And when you screw it in, then you are basically loosening it, because this other end is inside here and it doesn't affect the total length. Only this is the business end, so we want to have that move further out or further in, and that's the simple way of adjusting a mechanical derailleur. And yes, this needs a clean and the lubrication, but we won't be doing that here now, because the video will last for 10 hours while we catch everything on camera and explain it and all. So did I just lie? I had to do this at least a little bit. It's looking too ugly, too bad. Okay, at least a little bit. Now we need to loosen the existing, and this is another important thing, where you are routing the cable through. If you route it on the wrong side, this attachment is not symmetrical. If you route it on the wrong side, you will get a different pull ratio, different angle, and so your derailleur will not work very accurately. It will have problems tuning it. You will have problems tuning it, and it might require you to use too much force on your lever to move it at all. That's especially problematic with front derailleurs that have a lot stronger springs usually. So that's why it's important to use the right technique to place the cable properly. And with Shimano 11 and modern 10-speed road derailleurs, those attachments and how they've designed it is really crazy. Okay, so here we are pushing the limits of the total length of the housing. I have some tandem bicycle shifter cables that are longer than ordinary by 1 whole meter, and in this case I did not have to resort to those. I was lucky enough, but sometimes you need to. So now I need to take some needle nose pliers. That sounds so melodic in English. Needle nose pliers. Okay, so let's keep this tight and want to make sure that the derailleur is on the right and it's not. So I've just almost shot myself in the foot, so to speak. So now it's on the smallest, it's all the way out, and I'm watching it. Now the cable is loose, cable is not playing anything. I want to check if this is properly aligned or if I should tighten one of these limit screws to prevent it from going too far out. And then I will do the same with the opposite side limit screw that prevents it from going too far in. So let's see if I got the right screw. Apparently not. Apparently not. Okay, now we can see it moving. And I want it to be just on the outside of the sprocket, but not letting the chain fall off all the way. So we got that. We got that right. Now let's see. There. It's looking okay. Now I can tighten the pinch bolt and then do the fine tuning. So as you can see, we haven't got much room to play here. If I had left just 1 more centimeter length of the housing, we would have been in trouble, and I would have had to use the super expensive, outrageously expensive tandem bicycle cables that cannot be sourced in Serbia, that I need to smuggle from Germany. The amount of resourcefulness that's needed to do bicycle mechanics in Serbia would make the Pablo Escobar envious and look like a complete amateur. Okay, so let's try to, I need to now make sure that the outer limit screw is, it was too tight because I played with the wrong screw. I didn't take the time to double check this and didn't want to block the camera, so it's not going to fly off, but it can be shifted to the largest cog. So that's looking more or less okay, but we will see. No. What I did was pull on the shifter lever a bit stronger, but not with too much force, and then back, because that made the cable bed itself in and make some room for itself. So now I can re-tighten it without, so here instead of leaving this now all the way in, I want to unscrew it by just a couple of turns to give me some room to loosen the cable if I need to later on. But for start I will just confirm that it's on the lowest sprocket, so that's all the way out, and now try to re-tighten it. There you can see how much more I've pulled. Now we can, this is not good, I am holding the tool near the frame, but I haven't got now much room for my tool tray and other stuff, so it's either on the floor or near the paint. Now let's check. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now let's see if I've loosened the cable too much. Yes, I have. I can force the chain off into the spokes, and that's not good, so I want this tighter. Now let's see. This is just a rough guide. I have a video showing and explaining in detail the derailleur tuning procedure, so we will not be spending too much time in this video on that. But yeah, this is looking pretty good. I really love tuning derailleurs. I don't know why, but I find that work along with building wheels to be highly satisfying and somehow meditative. Not sure why, but maybe psychiatrists have an explanation. Now we can move on. We need to replace the rear cable and the front derailleur. For the rear brake cable, the procedure is the same as for the front brake cable. It's just longer. So I'll first go with the derailleur in case we run out of camera, battery or whatnot. So let's now make sure first thing to not cut the wrong cable. So I need to cut this cable for the front derailleur. And mechanics who work quickly and efficiently usually first cut everything off, remove, and then quickly place it. But here I did not do that apparently. So we will use our other piece of housing, and I'm just curious to see. Okay, this one was just a tad longer than the one we are going with, but I made a video where I have experimented with the durability of Shimano housing for brakes and shifters, and in this gray housing showed some for brakes shows some buildup of some apparently dust or similar, something sticky, gooey, like a sort of pollen or dust. But when I pushed that out, it worked nicely. After 2 years in the sun, rain, cold, whatever, under tension, bent pretty harshly. So I did that, and both the black and the gray housing worked fine generally, though I must admit that the black brake housing didn't have that buildup. Why is that? I don't know. Maybe the angle at which it stood or something, or some insects preferred one color over the other. I don't know. Maybe it got higher temperature for being black and getting a bit more sunlight, but the black one worked with a bit less, slightly less dirt buildup. So that was for me an interesting observation. But both the black and the gray one didn't get cracks, didn't get too much noticeable rust, and so I consider them both to be very good, and I've tested them on my bicycles, so in all weather. And so Shimano housing is good, and yes, I generally would probably, if I had to buy again, go with the neutral colors, so either black or white to have for different projects. But I was really curious to try the gray and see how that works. I'm checking out. Okay, I have some room to put the end cap on that cable. Here it is, one end cap, so that we lose it. And now for the other. These Shimano cables are a lot more expensive compared to cheaper stuff that I can source here, about 2 to 3 times the price. And even if you buy in bulk and get discounts and everything, they are more expensive, but they are more durable compared to those other cheap ones that I get from different manufacturers, and not just the Chinese brands. So they are more durable, and that makes them be, how do I say, they end up being cheaper when you calculate how often you need to replace them. So it turns out they are the wiser choice. Let's see. Again, I need to get the cable inside the hole for the cable, so that's a bit tricky. There, I think I got it. Now let's try to get this. I'm not sure if I managed to not block the camera while doing that, but not trying to hide any trade secrets. It was just to get it inside here. I needed to rotate a bit, and then when I got it, it would hit this wall, so I needed to loosen it to align it with the other hole so that the cable can, as you can see now, can just go back. Okay, so this marker goes in this groove. For the shifting gears I need to put it back, and when I align this, now let's get this again, the same thing. This is just like we did with the rear derailleur, only here we're adjusting it at the lever because that's where the adjustment is. Some bicycles don't have that adjustment, and so Shimano on road bicycles, instead of adding somewhere else on the shifters or wherever, decided to make some system on the derailleur itself that allows you to finely tune the cable tension. But routing those cables for the road bicycle is, in my opinion, needlessly more complicated compared to the older road or mountain bike systems, and I really don't fancy what Shimano did there. And I advise people against buying such systems to just stick with good old friction shifters and help themselves instead of helping manufacturers. Okay, so we've got the cable through here, and now I can close the shifter. And let's see, here we have this cable. This is how it was routed, all the way in, around, and then here to the pinch bolt. So again, we will use some spray to clean the. Okay, good enough. It's good enough for who it's for. It's a cameraman's bicycle. That's the common trademark Serbian insult or joke, however you take it. It's good enough for who it's for, and even better if you consider who it's from. So no one gets left out. Okay, now let's try to get this all the way around into the groove here, like Madonna says. And now I need to again be careful where I get this cable through, and now things will get very tight with camera and me and bicycle and the wall and everything. So I need to loosen this just a little bit. It's just a flesh wound. Okay, getting it out. Now I need to get this inside in that groove. I made sure that I've shifted to the smallest cog. Okay, and I have some room. I will show it later on the other side. So I forgot to mention that little part, and it's important, but again, this is not a. I have a Derailleur Tuning Academy derailleur video with such a pretentious title, and the derailleur, and a video called "What's Stopping You from Ever, Preventing You from Ever Tuning Your Derailleur," right, for the complicated stuff. So two very in detail videos. But here we've tightened the cable. We'll cut it. Nothing to see here. Move on. This side, this side is the important one. So. On the rear it's on the largest, nearest to the frame, and here it's on the smallest, nearest to the frame, and I made sure that there is some room here. Why? because I did tighten that adjustment barrel all the way in, so I have all the possible extra tension available. And if I need to move this a bit further out, I will be able to use that. But I didn't let this go too much in, because then I would not have enough extra tightening room adjustment to get it in the optimal position. So I suppose this is a good starting point, but that I will need to further tighten at least a little bit the cable. So before I move on, what I will do is get this cable that's hanging right now, I will get it through here. Again, how to not block the camera and everything. Okay, so here we are underneath, and now I have room to pull on it and everything, but later I will cut it to size. Now I need to just be able to turn the pedals. Now, so let's see, the pinch bolt is reasonably tight, and let's see now, shift here. Okay, it shifts to the smaller one. Let's do a few shifts at the rear, and now let's see if it shifts into the largest one. And so far it's looking good. Now let's see when it's all the way to the outer. Is there any chain rub? No. And the limit screw is just right set as it was before, so it cannot move too far out. Even if I pull further or try to use my hand to pull on the cable, it cannot move. So that's good. Okay, now let's try to see if it will shift back. So here a few shifts. Now let's see. Okay, this went smoothly. Now let's see this. Okay, this was okay. Now let's see if I'm on the largest, the rear. Okay, minimum amount of hesitation, but if I loosen the cable tension a bit, or if I loosen the adjustment bolts first that are preventing this from moving further in, then I might increase the risk of chain drop. So since my friend knows how to switch gears in time before he applies load on the pedals for climbs, I will leave it like this, because it was like that adjusted and it worked fine for years. So that's what we will do. I'll leave it at that, even though as you can see it's a bit hesitating to shift down, just slightly. Generally this is okay. This is a solid 9 out of 10, but it could go faster. Now I need to make sure that the cable is not too loose, so I'm unscrewing that barrel and looking here to see when I will start to notice the shifter, the derailleur move. Okay, now it's getting tight. Okay, so there is some room to, I'm doing the same thing that I did with the rear, so tightening it a bit and then losing it to make sure that inside the housing it's all good. And now, okay. Okay, so now let's confirm that it can shift back normally. Okay, I think I got it too tight now. Let's dial it back a bit. Okay, now it's looking better. It's looking good. Okay, I think I got it right from the first start, and I didn't in the end eventually need to make almost any adjustments at the barrel. And I forgot to replace this on top before playing with the shifter, so this did not fly out, but it could have. So that's my oversight, my mistake. It happens. So only those who never do any work can never make mistakes, says a hedgehog, and gets off the toilet brush. Okay, so we got it. Now just all we need to do is, okay, it's working smoothly, and now we need to just do the rear brake, and then we're done. So let's double check this that we have already. So let's see where it would go. Right here. Okay, so this is way too long, That's what she said. Okay, so this looks better. Now the test again. I don't want to risk not being able to turn the bars, to not have these too tight, but I also don't want to leave it to be outrageously long. So probably based on everything else, let's make it like this to be symmetrical more or less. That should be okay. So this is the length we are going for, and let's see the part we have here. It's not good enough. Okay, so no luck with that one. Okay. This will fall down 10 more times probably. Okay. So let's see. Something like that. Something like that. Okay. Making it a bit longer so that I can later cut it short when needed. Okay, so doing this to make sure I can easily continue working with these. And for some reason this particular box is always not willing to cooperate, always causing me problems. But that's a separate topic. Okay. I generally don't like leaving tools on the ground. I think it's a bad habit that can cause all sorts of problems when you least expect it. Okay, now let's see. Should I cut off another centimeter? I think so. Maybe just 1 more centimeter to not have it be way too long, and that should be it. Okay, this one won't go further out because of this. It's looking good. I would not even need to use any zip ties or anything. Okay, let's make it just a little bit shorter and call it a day. Okay, now again the happy machine. This part, this side looks good. Okay, just fortunately I am not paid by the hour. So okay, so we have this again, the same thing we did. Let's get the cable out. So this is now repetitive, practically the same thing we did for the front brake, only longer. Okay, it's been a long week for me, not just a long day. So all right, good. Now I want to also do the same thing. So the idea is to clean any gunked up grease. So applying just a thin coat of this, and now here to apply some here on this side, and hopefully that's more than good enough. Okay, now screw it back in, trying not to cross thread it, paying attention. So the way to do this is to go over to the other side so that you can see what you're doing, not the way I'm doing. I should have been standing on this side and locking the camera. And here now we will use some spray on the pivot, just a little bit, and touch here to have it distribute where it needs to be. Okay, now we can get some cable and get started with routing. Let's get some cable. So this one has a slit all the way, slot all the way down, so I can just get the cable through, and then open this lock nut all the way out, and then screw this all back in, all the way in. Okay, looking good. Now I need to get this, maybe put some of this here, just sleep better. Okay, now the fun thing is to make sure not to get things mixed where you don't want them. Here it's pretty obvious and pretty straightforward, but that's not always the case, so pay attention, because this is loose and it can get all the way through everything, and then when you get the housing on top and see what you did, you need to get it back off and then redo the same thing. So it happens, and it's better to pay attention. So I should have added the cap right away, so that's a bit of a mistake on my part, but that's how it is. Let's see if this will work. Okay, now we have this. This is of optimal length. I have no complaints here. This part is looking good, so I will just copy it. I will use the same length exactly, and maybe this will now be enough. Let's see if this one will have. Every dog has its day. Okay, looking good. That's enough. Okay, double check. So when you cut it too short, you need to cut again. Joking. Okay, so it's good. Now getting this on. There's a slot here, so I can just slide it like that. Get this out. Get this in. Okay. Okay, looking good. Okay, so again, the trick with the, just to eliminate any dirt that may have gathered inside or gummed up, whatever. Now we can talk. Here, putting this here and getting the cable through. It's out. Okay. Again, no using cable housing end cap, because this is the diameter already tight. Now to put this back on, again, this is not really necessary, but this is the part where you mount it if you want to mount it, otherwise you forget it. The pads are looking okay. The brake pads, no need to replace them. So now I just need to loosen this. Again, similarly to the derailleurs, but a bit more obvious probably. It's important to pay attention where you attach the cable, because that affects the cable pull and the how do you say that, leverage, and it can mess things up if you get it wrong on the opposite side or something, some other mistake like that, and it's normal for mistakes to happen, so pay attention and double check. If bicycle, it's easier if a bicycle was working properly and configured properly, but very often you work with bicycles that were assembled wrongly, poorly, and that's when things get more complicated, especially for let's say new mechanics or novices. And I've seen even bicycles from stores come poorly assembled, so it happens from bicycle shops. It happens, not to mention that even I can make a mistake, so it's all normal. Too much slack. Let's get this a bit tighter. Okay. Now let's. Okay. Cool. That looks to be just right. Maybe loosen it just a little bit more, in case I want some wiggle room for mounting maybe fatter, a bit newer pads or similar, without having to loosen the cable. So here I didn't use the torque wrench, as you can see. I used my hands, and we'll see. Okay, now I'm pulling very strongly on the lever, trying to have it go ping, broken or whatever. Better now than during a test ride. So I've got some more cable bedding in, and I've loosened the cable a bit, so those are some. Okay, so now I'm loosening it. Unscrew the, here's how you can adjust the cable. So I'm unscrewing it all. I've done the quick release on the back to not work against the spring's tension, so this is pretty slack. So I unscrewed it, and now when I get to a position that I like, I try to make these slots be on the bottom so that any water can more easily get out. And now that I've got it in place, I'm now tightening this against the lever, unscrewing it from the outer end and moving it towards the lever and tightening it against the lever. And that will keep this from screwing back in, because it will have a tendency to self-screw back in because of the cable's tension. So that's why you have these lock nuts to keep it in place as you've adjusted it. And now let's see if I can get this back on, or if I've overdone the cable tensioning. Okay, just enough. All right, let's see if the brake needs some adjustment. If one of these stays too close, and in this case I think it's on this side, make sure that the wheels are mounted properly all the way in the dropouts, and that you've done this a lot of times with the lever to make sure that it's as it would stay. And I could have cleaned and lubricated these as well, as I didn't do this, did it on the front one. And now we'll just leave it this way, at least for the video. Cutting this, some people like to cut this very short for some unexplained reasons, and I'm happy to go with a few extra grams to make it easier for me to keep it tight if I need to later on, and similar. Okay, now I just want to add the caps. So we have on each cable end, I will add one of these. Pinching it in two places. Did I do that for the front brake I did already. Okay, now let's do that for the shifter cable. And let's try to move in there. Okay. So it's too long. It's way too long now. Okay, now I can see what I'm doing. I will get it out of that place and then cut it to size again, and then put an end cap and consider it done. Opa! Okay, now let's try to pull it out. Okay, so here it is. I will try to leave a few centimeters of cable and then mount the cap and make sure that it's tight. Good. Now I want to test the shifting to make sure that the cable is not catching onto anything in any derailleur position. So I will do that. That's the last check that needs to be done on for the front derailleur, but before that, just to put this on the rear derailleur. If you don't do this, the cable will start fraying, and that can get you to pierce your skin very easily, and it's quite painful. So this is the civilized way to do it. Okay, now let's try the shifting, and you can see on this side what the cable is doing. So it's moving as I'm shifting, and I want to make sure that in no gear does it catch onto the crank. So here it's closest to the crank, but there's plenty of room, or get into the frame or somewhere else. So now I would just do a test ride and consider this bicycle to be done, but that's only for the normal people. In this case, we will have one step beyond. So let's put this back. We will not be needing this, hopefully. I want to also use the opportunity to thank the good people who support my work via Patreon. That's very helpful, and I highly appreciate it. And do not forget to mention that I would encourage and politely ask you to use BikeGremlin.net forum for any questions or comments, because YouTube is very, very bad. I wrote an article about that, why I refrain from answering questions on social media in general in the recent time, and why I built my forum. So with that out of the way, now let's move on with this. I'll probably make a review of this watch and another watch. That's the two watches I have. For the other one is for a very long time, so that will hopefully help someone. And now what we want to do here is to make the handlebars more comfortable for my friend, so that he can ride in all kinds of riding positions and so on and so forth. And ideally I will try to use a bit of, take some cotton cloth and use some alcohol to remove any kind of how do I say, grease from or dirt, and then I will use some spray that turns rust into pretty stable oxide and prevents it from spreading. So that's what I will do before I wrap tape around this. I want to wrap some handlebar tape over this, and the tricky part is when you are starting and the direction. So if I start from here, my friend will be holding his hands like this, and so when he's pulling on the handlebars, it will be this kind of movement. So I want to wrap in that direction, so that when he's turning his hands, he is working towards tightening his handlebar tape and not unwrapping it. That's the first thing to do. So taking that in mind, I want it to be winding that way, so in that direction. Okay, so that's the first thing. And the second thing is that if I start from here and go like this, then when his hands are moving from the top towards the rear, he will be catching onto this and trying to sort of unwrap it. That's one downside. But if I go in the opposite direction, so start from here and go along that way, then when he moves his hands sideways, he will be working towards unscrewing this. So that's a dilemma that I need to figure out. And what has worked well for me on road bicycles is that I go from the outside towards the inside and in the direction that I just showed. So I will try to emulate that first, and we'll see how this fares, because I've never wrapped handlebar tape on bars like this, I must say that. So the thing that I will try to do here is now to just make sure that this is tight. So I'm holding it with my hand here and trying to make sure that this is held tight and starts screwing around itself. And to start first, to help myself, I will start with some tape that is sticky. And this is a trick that you can do when you have damaged handlebar tape and similar, and that is to make a wrap of sticky tape, but make it turned, as I did here, in the opposite direction, so that it holds stuff in place. And that's what I will try to do here now for start. Maybe, hopefully not regret it. So doing it like this and making sure that it's nice and tight, leaving the sticky part on the outside and making sure that it's tight. Okay, so that's one section. Let's cut it. Okay, now do the same thing here on the other side, but I will try to make my job a bit easier by doing this now to keep it in place. Okay, that should help. We will see. This kind of tape is available in electricity, how do you say that, stores where you buy things for fixing electronics. And it's not a standard plastic insulating tape, but it's like some kind of cloth, and it doesn't stretch, so I like it for handlebar wraps. And now what did we say? We want this direction for wrapping, so let's start from the bottom here like that, and let's try to get it tight, as tight as I can. And this is like wrapping bandage, if you've done that or know someone who has, so making it hold itself in place. And now, after I've started that first circle, I just need to continue with the wrap, and these cables and housing are not helping me, but we're working with what we have, so we'll keep it going. I'm keeping it tight all the way. I don't think I've made any videos in my native about wrapping handlebars. In English, sorry, in English. I only have videos in my native. So this is explaining and showing the basic principles of wrapping handlebars that also applies for road bicycle handlebars. Okay, so this is some soft, relatively thick tape that's also among the cheaper ones, and we'll give it a try and see how we fare. And so the only question is now how far here we want to go. And so are we going all the way or leaving some room for lights or similar? No, all the way. Yes, because there are dynamo lights and everything, so no need to. We'll get it. To get most of the real estate of the handlebars, to make it comfy and as good as it can be. Okay, so now let's close it here. That's enough. So I need to make sure to cut this tape along that line roughly. So we'll do it something like that. Didn't get the angle just right. Should have gotten a bit more here. So that looks better now. And now I can use this tape to close it up, to finish it in a way. So make sure it's tight. Not the best handlebar wrap job in the world, but it will do. Okay. Okay. That should be okay. We will see. We will know in a few years. Okay, so I want to thank the cameraman for the tenacity and the patience, and also to thank you if you sat through this whole video. I think that we are now ready for a test ride and to see how this baby goes. And hopefully, if we realize that this direction was wrong, we have more tape, so we won't need to buy any new tape to do it the other way around. So we did it from the outside towards the inside, and there is an option to do it the other way around depending on how movements work in practice. With road bars it's different because they are angling downwards, so you have some direction towards that, but here it's opposite, so it might be good, it might be shit as Gennaro Gattuso says. So that's the whole video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in some other video. Cheers, stay cool.